energetically.
Sharyn G. Jordan, it is a lovely thing to be able to connect together for this interview and just to say, wow, what an amazing book is coming together. And I have the best position of everybody because I get to do the interviews and meet everybody, and I get to read their chapters before anybody else.
Yes, you do. And that is a catbird seat. Absolutely, Becky B. I'm so glad that you're the person to do that. I was with Sandy on Saturday. She read about 5 or 6 stories. I don't see the stories. You know, we have in our partnership, we have certain duties, if you will, and it works well. So I don't get those, and she does. And I was in tears. The stories are so moving, and that's only 5 of the 40 that'll be in there. 35 authors and 5 an homage of storytelling that we're doing. I'm so glad you're the one.
And I have dogs barking.
Oh, I didn't hear a thing. They're just chiming in. They're so happy. That's
They're so happy. Yeah, the crazy
so yeah.
creatures.
So I agree. I'm so glad they've said yes. I'm so grateful for who they are and what they're doing. You and I've had this conversation. Our stories, this is how we create this. It's folklore, but we're creating our own folklore, and this stands the test of time, and how we create that beautiful world that lives inside of us, and wrapping words around all of that we know in our heart, and sharing experiences which don't preach, they teach, they exemplify, they inspire. It's so important this time of our world, if you will, historically.
Oh, absolutely. So, golden wisdom of love, legends, and legacies. You and yourself and Sharyn have been the mastermind behind it all. What prompted you after Wisdom of the Silver Sisters to decide to do this book this year?
It was really an inspiration. It was not in the profound sense of a dream that downloaded, which was with the Silver Sisters, but it was something that had been stirring. I've had this last month, I've had memory mileposts on Facebook that have popped up, Becky. And in 1959, my dad, I was all of 11, and my dad was an avid reader and writer. And my sister, who was 3 years younger than we would create stories. And we were creating this story called Magda Rose of the Dragonwood Enchanted Forest. And it was about legends, legacy, and folklore. And I had really lost track with it. And it was something then in probably about 6 or 7 years ago that recycled. And I thought, I'm going to finish that story. And I got a little bit into it. And then my grandson, Sean, passed away. So there's life events and you park those. And so I literally, whenever this book came up, what should be our next? We knew it'd be golden wisdom, got silver, golden, those threads, if you will. And I had literally forgotten. I told Sandy, let's do legends, legacies, and lore. She goes, no, nobody's going to know what lore is. I said, oh, everybody knows. She goes, no, they don't. I love her. She's Irish, we're yin and yang. And so I said, okay, let's do love, which so many, as you know, are these chapters of love. Chapters of loved ones, or these chapters and so it's been in kind of I'd say percolating. It's been marinating. It's been there, and now bringing it out and having this tribe of golden wisdom writerlies is profound. I'm just so humbled and in awe.
It is. It's very awe-inspiring and yes, very humbling. So when somebody picks up this book is published and somebody picks up a copy of this book, what do you hope that they gain from it?
That they feel within the heart of their being, whatever it is that they've not been doing, they can do. Whomever it is they've not been being, that they can be, they can become, they can be, they can step into it. So much I'll hear with clients, as you know, I do feng shui, and I have clients that get really beaten up with world today, or world this, or well, that's been history. I'm one of the books I told you, Magda Rose. It's a historical fiction. Boy, trust me, there were some rough times. So historically, this is what the world does, and it will do that. What our opportunity is to read stories like this, sitting on your bedside table, sitting cozied in with a cuppa and reading and drinking in those words and realizing oh my goodness, this person had this experience. Miracles still happen, intentions unfold, love transcends the veil. All of these things are very, very real, and we can never let our love, our spirituality be outsourced nor beaten down. And it takes courage. And in feng shui, there's 5 elements. There's wood, there's fire, there's earth, there's metal, and there's water. In the water element, if you go into an acupuncturist and they say, boy, you've got something going on in your kidney, and look at all the world that has kidney issues, the only way that, and fear loves to live in the kidney. It's literally what it does. Blame, shame, and complain lives in the liver. Every component has an
Wow.
archetypal energy with it, which is, it's fascinating. It's layers and layers and layers. And so the only way we can dissolve fear is through courage. So if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, and he did the hero's journey, and I do a whole workshop on Shiro hero journey, we are answering that call, our call of destiny that's unique to us. And when we do find, as he said, doors will appear where there was only a brick wall. You know, follow your bliss. He coined that phrase. So we've got this mythology, and these. He was definitely an archaeologist, archetypal energy of, not an archaeologist in the sense of that, who brought the mythologies, and they're constantly playing out in our lives. And we have that muse, we have that inner muse, and not to be whimsical or not to be, but be inspired by the fact that we have these rich imaginations. We are creating the future now.
Mm,
Our
yeah.
stories are telling us where we're going. Where's that rudder set, that navigation, that navigating the unseen, uncharted, if you will, seas, finding that courage. And when we really get a hold of that, and they'll, in the book, they'll read these stories of how Brian Dijart, he says, at first he wanted to be a vegetarian. He could be a vegetarian, veterinarian. And he ended up even in a greater Rainer world of what a powerful storyteller and impactful person he was, ended up, even because he wasn't getting into what he thought was what his path was, what he thought. So these are the things that we look at and we say, where are those limitations? They always serve us, and let's look underneath them, because in that is the story. And I'll be 74 in November, and I have to tell you, I wake up every morning in gratitude. I feel like, I mean, I've got, there's a lot more books we're going to be reading out. So this is the thing, that not to be disheartened. Work with that fire energy, which is heart. Work with that metal energy, which is the lungs, and the lungs represent joy on one side and sorrow on the other. It's a bridge from grief to gratitude, or grief to gladness, if you will.
Mhm.
And again, with the water. And then wood is an element of trust the process, but it's also forgiveness. We have to continuously forgive ourselves and forgive. So all these stories exemplify different experiences. I read the story, she read Uncle. Oh my goodness, Uncle was an amazing man of what he did, and what he kept looking, and because his heart was to serve. So
Right.
oh, it was beautiful. Andrea's story at the table brought me to tears too. I'm just,
Well, it's
it's the
it's
power of
fascinating.
story.
Yes, and it's so interesting because there is a lot going on in our world. And the very first call this morning at 8 o'clock was with one of my authors, and she said, well, they say the world's, it's going to come to get an end. We're going to lose all our internet. We're going to do this. And then I said, perhaps,
Oh, bless her heart.
but perhaps not. And I
Hmm.
said, we've been hearing this I grew up hearing those same messages. My father was, really, really tapped into that kind of a mindset. And I said, but I think we're here for a bigger thing. And I really can't buy into that, because it just leads to fear, and you can't get through a day with a fear attitude. If it comes to be, then we'll find ways to be okay, but
Hmm.
fear can't rule our lives,
No,
and
no,
that's why
I
these
agree.
stories are so important.
They're so important, of how people overcame, how miracles still happen, recognizing them, magic still unfolds. These are the things intentionally, and it's a mental process, and it is absolutely what's the worst thing can happen? Well, if everything goes down, you still have a roof over your head or whatever. But there's a way around it. If it did what if the worst happens, there's always going to be a solution. If the worst happens or whatever does happen, there's going to be a trigger that's going to possibly that's the catalyst to make things better.
Mhm.
Possibly that's what gets a fire under certain things and certain movements to really catalyze them, really bring them the energy they need. So I look at that, and you see through history, there have been these opportunities that you would think, oh, well, that was it. That's your, and then there's always been the people or the leadership or the heart that has stepped up and has really then created a better opportunity for living. When we see our polio,
Beautiful.
we see
Yeah.
the different, sorts of situation. If we hadn't had back in the day in the 50s, the polio vaccine, it would have been epidemic, and they were able to stamp that. I had a cousin that had polio, and my cousin, his sister, and I were the first ones in Texas to get a vaccination. And I was like 5 because Buster was maybe 3, and had to walk with, he lived. There were people his age that were in iron lungs and did not live. He had a lot of prayer and a lot of prayer for everybody, but he walked with braces for about 2 years, was always and then he grew into himself, and he ended up being a phenomenal person, because it was like the universe was, he had such, because of that illness though, he said, I'm here for a reason. I've been saved and spared. So we have those things that on the surface would look horrific, but then when you really take it up with the opportunity that gives us. And that's what these stories are. They're that golden wisdom, whether they chose the legend, like Uncle would be, or if they chose the love, which would be Andrea's table, or the legacy, which would be Brian stepping into the Rainer world and what he's created with that kind of sport, the refinement. So and some of them are all of the above.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. Well, it certainly is an honor to be a part of this. And, for the second year, to here we go. And this time with the added influence or the added pieces of wisdom and nuggets of wisdom from the gentlemen that are in the book. And
Yes.
it just really, really takes it to a different level. And I'm so appreciative of being up, just being able to be a part of this whole thing.
The
And
space
adore
that you
you.
hold, I'm sorry, the space you hold, Becky, is divine,
Uh,
sacred. It's beautiful. We sing your praises all the time. Thank you. Your expertise is invaluable.
thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Feel
Oh
very
my goodness.
blessed. All
Yes,
right.
yes. Well, absolutely.
Very
Definitely.
good.
Yes.
Well, to another beautiful year with 11/11/22 and this book launching off and reaching the hearts of many. And so, for
Thank
anybody that listens, read every chapter, pick one up, pick it
you.
up today, pick it up that
Mhm.
day, and just enjoy.
It'll be an oracle. I have had from the silver wisdom as we're ringing off. People will say, I'll just randomly open, and it's what I needed, if you will,
Mhm.
really was inspired. And this book will be that same format. It'll speak to your heart. It's an
Awesome.
honor. It's a privilege. It's something that truly our stories are making the world a beautiful place, because we are still creating this pristine opportunity for us to always see, regardless of what it looks like, see beneath it. Sometimes we have to see around it, whatever it is.
Under.
But if we just lean into that gratitude of it, and we find that courage within ourselves, it's there for us. It'll serve us, and it comes up. And we absolutely then we kind of join this storyteller. If we had a union, or whatever it might be, but the energy of beauty, grace, and gratitude, and definitely love. So thank
Beautiful.
you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Awesome.
Mwah.
And thank you.
Bye for now.